All right, the time is 6:04. We are calling to order the open session of tonight's June 2nd City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
I'd be delighted to. Councilmember Caldor.
Here.
Councilmember Giroux is absent this evening. Councilmember Boyles.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldino.
Here.
And Mayor Pimentel.
Here. And joined to start, we have an invocation from Pastor O. Oh, there you are, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilmember Boyles. Pastor O, the floor is yours.
Thank you, council members, I'm praying first? Okay. For allowing me to be a part of today's meeting and our Pride Month celebrations. You know, I love praying the invocation for this month because one of the reasons I entered into ministry is to care for those who have been hurt by the church. And certainly the queer community has been hurt by the church. You know, Jesus spent his entire life going to those who have been pushed away by society. He showed us exactly how to live by loving and caring for all people, especially the marginalized. And yet, tragically, the church often did the opposite, pushing our LGBTQIA siblings away instead of welcoming them with open arms. And the church has too often missed the mark, but tonight I am profoundly grateful to stand before this council and this city to clearly affirm that God fiercely loves every single one of our queer and trans siblings, just as God loves every single one of you. And so please join me in an attitude of prayer as we devote this month to celebrating and honoring our LGBTQIA community. Holy Creator, source of all love and boundless grace, we gather today in deep gratitude for our city and for these council members who have dedicated themselves to its service and its future. In the beginning, you looked upon the spectacular, boundless diversity of everything you made and declared that it was very good. Today, in the midst of Pride Month, we speak that divine truth out loud without hesitation. You created queer, trans, and LGBTQ plus people beautifully and intentionally, and you called them good. We give thanks for the LGBTQ plus community here in El Segundo, for their joy, their resilience, and the authentic truths they share that make our community richer, stronger, and more whole. We ask that you guide this council's deliberations today, grant them the wisdom to govern with deep compassion and the courage to strive unceasingly for justice and true inclusion for every resident. May the work done in these chambers today lay the foundation for a tomorrow where every single person knows without a doubt that they belong exactly as they are. In your holy and life-giving name we pray. Amen. Thank you. As you face the flag and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyles, and thank you to Pastor O at the United Methodist Church. We're going to start today. We have 3 special presentations. We'll begin with item 2, the presentation of the Edison Scholar Check to El Segundo student Juliette Legue.
I am honored to present this commendation, whereas El Segundo High School student Juliette Legue has been selected as the 2026 Edison Scholar and awarded a prestigious $50,000 college scholarship from Edison International. The Edison International Foundation selected 30 outstanding high school seniors from across its service area who have demonstrated exceptional academic achievement and a passion for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And whereas this remarkable honor recognizes Juliette's dedication to academic excellence, intellectual curiosity, and commitment to pursuing opportunities in STEM. Her selection from a highly competitive pool of applicants reflects not only on her outstanding accomplishments in the classroom, but also her potential to become a future leader, innovator, and a contributor to society. And whereas through hard work, perseverance, and a passion for learning, Juliette has distinguished herself as an exemplary student and a source of pride for the El Segundo community. Her achievement serves as an inspiration to her peers and demonstrates the bright future that lies ahead through determination and educational excellence. Now, therefore, on the second day of June 2026, the mayor and members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo proudly extend our heartfelt congratulations to Juliette on being selected as a 2026 Edison Scholar and recipient of a $50,000 college scholarship, and commend her for this outstanding achievement while wishing her continued success in all future and academic professional endeavors. Congratulations.
Juliet, want to come up and stand with me for a minute? So I couldn't have said it better. I'm Diane Forte, Government Relations Manager with Southern California Edison, and here with Juliet. And, each year it's a very competitive process. We get over 500 applicants and we select 30. We've been doing it since 2006, and our shareholders, it's been like $22 million. I think we need to do a better job of publicizing it, but Juliet's an example of a dream maker, and that's why we want to recognize her today with this ceremonial check and good photo opportunities here. So thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you so very much. Now, I don't know if you can take a picture.
Told to make sure it's clear. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Congratulations once again. It's quite an achievement. Mayor Pro Tem, for our Juneteenth proclamation, please.
Yes, a proclamation from the city of El Segundo, California. Whereas this nation was founded on the principles stated in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal, they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but in which people who were African American were held in slavery for many years. And whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, which holds that all persons held as slaves within a state or designated part of a state shall be thenceforth forever free, changing the legal status of 3.5 million enslaved African Americans from slave to free. And whereas the Emancipation Proclamation paved the way for the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas news of the Emancipation Proclamation did not reach the most distant slave states until 2.5 years later, being read in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865. And whereas the Day of Respect and Remembrance, called Juneteenth, a combination of words June and 19th, is observed as an important day in our nation's history. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom while also serving as a reminder of the inequities faced by African Americans throughout our nation's history, and whereas El Segundo recognizes that a diverse community founded on shared values and community spirit is our strength and opportunity for the future. Now, therefore, the mayor and the members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, hereby proclaim June 19, 2026 as Juneteenth Celebration Day, and urge all citizens to celebrate our diversity, to recognize the strength of a rich culture and experience the African American heritage. This celebration acknowledges the history of an important part of American society and helps unify our city and our nation as a whole. And we'll accept this on behalf of the residents of the City of El Segundo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And item 3, our friends at Mattel have tomorrow's Play It Forward. Over to you, Councilmember Boyles.
Yeah, it's great to see Corinne, longtime champion for Mattel and El Segundo here in the audience. Thanks for being here. This proclamation reads as follows. Whereas June 11th is recognized by the United Nations as International Day of Play, celebrating the importance of play to the development of children worldwide. And play is a fundamental right of every child and powerful driver of development, creativity, and emotional well-being, helping shape confident, compassionate, and capable individuals. And whereas for over 80 years, Mattel has been a global leader in play, enriching the lives of children with its iconic brands, fostering imagination, discovery, and lifelong memories across generations, and positively impacting communities worldwide. And whereas Mattel has been a driving force in championing the International Day of Play through innovative programming, advocacy, and outreach, demonstrating how play can be a unifying force that transcends language, borders, and backgrounds. And Mattel's Play It Forward initiative embodies its deep-rooted commitment to bring the power of play to life for children and families and give back to children and underserved communities around the world. And whereas Play It Forward Global Volunteer Week is a designated period each year where Mattel's global offices host a week of opportunities for employees to share their time and talents to support their local communities. With participation from over 30 global offices impacting thousands of children and benefiting more than 100 nonprofits worldwide, the occasion has quickly grown to support Mattel's volunteer and philanthropic efforts all over the world. And whereas in the city of El Segundo, Play It Forward Week will include June 3rd Epic Camp Mattel themed play days with 500 kids from LA County schools, including 50 elementary students from El Segundo schools. Mattel headquarters will transform into an immersive experience featuring hands-on activations, imaginative play, movement, and brand engagement, bringing together Mattel employees as volunteers, nonprofit organizations such as Playworks and Asmoa, and entertainment partners. It will include, in collaboration with Amazon MGM Studios, a custom Become Your Own Hero Masters of the Universe activation. And on June 11th, Mattel volunteers in partnership with Salvation Army will also lead interactive play experiences focused on creativity, teamwork, and leadership development at child care facilities throughout Los Angeles. Now, therefore, on the second day of June 2026, the mayor and members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, hereby proclaim June 11th International Day of Play in El Segundo. And the week of June 1st through 5th, 2026 is Mattel's Play It Forward Volunteer Week. And further commend the Mattel's Children Foundation and their participation and significant support to the community and Mattel's long-standing leadership, innovation, and generosity, and for its outstanding contributions to children, families, and the power of play. Mattel's numerous contributions for the benefit of all of the residents of Los Angeles County make them a cornerstone for the advancement of youth in our city. Thank you for being here. It's a great event, having attended multiple times. It's awesome to see the school buses roll up with the kids just running out, so excited from all over LA. So great job to you and Mattel. And Corinne, if you'd like to come up and accept this, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the recognition, members of the City Council. On behalf of the 1,700 employees that we have in El Segundo, and many of them who call El Segundo home, just as we all do, thank you so much for this recognition. I am very pleased that this year we are able to incorporate and include in the 500 children who are coming, children from El Segundo elementary schools. We've been trying to do that for some time, but schedules never worked. This time it works, so we're thrilled to have them as well tomorrow on campus, and it should be a great day of fun for everyone. I wish everyone in this audience, children of all ages, lots of play, playful times together through generations. So thank you again for this recognition. Much appreciated.
and thank you, council. All right, moving on, we have public comment. I will say we have 2 public hearings. So if you have public comment for item 12 or item 13 and would like to give it at that time, it would be probably more prescient. So Madam Clerk, do you have these broken up by tranche?
Of course I do. We do have 2 people who would like to address the council during this public comment.
Very well, come
All
on
right.
down.
Are we 3?
3 minutes
All righty.
for our overlords in Sacramento, 3 minutes each.
Anya Goldstein, please.
Thank you.
Is it for item 12 or 13? Do you want to wait till
No.
then?
I have a comment for that, but this
Oh.
is
Yeah,
about
no,
a
this is
different
pub- this is
topic and
Regular.
Okay.
allowed to give both, I was told. Good evening, council and executive staff. My name is Anya Goldstein, and I'm a longtime resident of El Segundo. I'm mostly here for that public hearing, but I also just wanted to address you briefly to ask that the city light the water tower with the colors of the pride flag during the month of June. Last night, the water tower was lit with a random pulsing of colors that caused people on Facebook to ask why the water tower was lit like a rave. The pride flag is simple and recognizable. It's not a random assortment of colors or flashing. It's just a static rainbow. I'd also like to ask that the tower be lit for the entire month of June, which is Pride Month. All of this is what the city has done in the past, and I just ask that the city follow its proclamation of Pride Month and Pastor Caleb's beautiful invocation and do so again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goldstein.
Christy Zeman. Oh.
It's been a while since I've been here. Good evening, council and Mayor Pimentel. I'm Christy Zeman and a retired teacher with about a little more than 23 years in our community. And I wanted to bring attention to a significant loss to many students and parents of our town. The Main Street Library once had 6 study rooms. Last year, 2 of those were removed for offices for personnel from, I think, Rec Park. I'm probably wrong on that one. And then a few months ago, another room was removed from for an office, and it's still unoccupied, so it could have been utilized during that time. And then recently, as of 2 weeks ago, another room was removed, excuse me, and it's going to be used as a book sale room, as if we need that. Now we're down to 2 study rooms. This does not bode well for the students, tutors, and parents who regularly use the study rooms, and it has and always been a high demand need, even when it was at 6 study rooms. And clearly now more than ever, down to 2 study rooms, it's really difficult to even get a time of 2-hour block in there at all. On many occasions when I have been there, I've actually given up my second hour of the time that I've reserved because I see high school students flustered that they can't even get a room. So I give them my last hour. And typically I use a study room twice a week, and then I'm in the other external parts of the library twice a week. And I'm aware that there are several students with special needs that are there receiving additional support that they can't get at the high school and or college. And parents have been bringing their kids in there to also study because simply it's too noisy at home and they like how quiet the library is. So unfortunately, with only 2 rooms, it's become even progressively more difficult to get a room to study in. The city is not even partially meeting the need with the reduction of the study rooms. Now, I'm aware that some might argue that tutors who charge should not be using these resources as if we're entitled, but we pay taxes. And I also say, how else do we support the most challenged of students that need that extra support? And the public library is the safest place. It's also the easiest place for students to get to after school. And that is usually 3 or 4 days a week where they go and they meet their teachers after school for the additional support. Offices should not be the priority. Students should be the priority. And FYI, I rarely charge a fee when I'm tutoring. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zeman.
That's it.
None further? City Manager, any follow-up comments?
Yes, regarding the lighting of the water tower, I wasn't quite sure, you said that the colors were different?
Yeah, it was just flashing.
Okay, I will check with our Public Works Department on that. And we do light the tower for 2 weeks, a maximum of 2 weeks. I believe we'll light it on Flag Day, which is June 14th.
Council comments? Seeing none, I will entertain a procedural motion to read all motions by title only.
Baldino so moves.
Second, Boyles.
Boyles on the second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. No abstentions. 4-0. Consent calendar. Does anyone have any pulls for items 4 through 11? Whoa. Would anyone like to move approval of the consent calendar?
Baldino moves approval.
Baldino on the first.
I'll second.
Keldorf on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? All right, 4-0. Okay, public hearing. This is a time and place here to fixed for a public hearing. City Clerk, was proper notice of the hearing given in a timely manner?
Yes, it was, sir.
Very well, then we'll proceed with item 12, the public hearing for approval of the proposed FY 2026 citywide operating and capital improvement program budget, GAN appropriations limit, and associated financial policies. Has any written communication been received regarding this public hearing?
No.
No, it has not. The public hearing is now open. City Manager George, who will make this presentation?
Yes, Mayor, our Chief Financial Officer, Paul Chung, will make the presentation, but before he starts, just another thank you to the council, to the executive team, to all the staff that participates in putting this pretty comprehensive, elaborate budget together over the last 3 or 4 months. We are happy to present a balanced budget. I know Paul will go into all the details, and specifically the details that came out of the workshop a few weeks back. But again, thank you to everyone, the staff, and particularly to Paul and his finance team for putting this together.
No, thank you, City Manager, and good evening, council members. I just want to mirror what the City Manager mentioned. As you know, the budget process is a long process, and yet it touches every facet of the organization, almost every staff. And so I do want to commend and recognize everyone that's been involved in this process. And of course, specifically my finance team that's been working around the clock to package the budget that's before you tonight. As I mentioned, we start this process almost annually on January, and then we had our budget study session on May 13th. And then we are here tonight for your adoption of your budget for next fiscal year. The agenda is pretty straightforward. I will focus on kind of what changed from our budget study session. I have various slides for that, so you can see what changed since our last meeting. And I will also have outstanding items. If there's a few items that are outstanding that's not included in your proposed budget, so I'll go through those as well. But mainly, I will go over kind of the overview of our revenues, expenditures, all funds, and then also general fund balances, and the 5-year, 10-year forecast. And lastly, I'll conclude with the CIP projects that are proposed for next year as well. I do wanted to let the council know that we were recognized by the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers, or CSMFO, for our current year's budget. We were awarded the Excellence Award. We've historically gotten the Meritorious Award. So basically, if you submit something, they'll give you a recognition. But this one is an Excellence Award, so they go into details regards to what are the benefits of your budget? Is it transparent? Is it help the community? So they go into a lot more detail reviewing our budget. So I am proud to get this recognition from CSMFO.
Congrats.
No, thank you, thank you. With that said, for next year, the budget is balanced, as the city manager has mentioned. The department heads and the departments held the line going into next year. And as I mentioned in our budget study session, our expenditures continues to rise faster than our revenues, and I'll go into some of that detail in the subsequent slides. Regards to next year, there's really 8 items that are in our budget. Our revenues remain flat. As you know, the economy is relatively, I don't know, stable is not the right word, but it's unpredictable. And so my revenues for next year are remaining flat and conservative going into next year. We have our unfunded liability at $3.9 million. That's a $1 million increase from current year. There's currently one labor group that's in negotiations, the PMA. As we are going to open up the plunge this weekend, the operational budget is included in next year's budget as well. The budget for next year for CIP, we have $3.8 million. That's from our budget study session was 2.9, now it's at 3.8, and I'll go into the details of what changed. We also include a 5% vacancy rate. And then also from our budget study session, council had directed staff to go ahead and transfer the $2 million economic uncertainty fund reserve from the $2 million to the general fund. So you'll see that as well. And lastly, I do forecast a looming kind of structural deficit, which I'll go into in the forecast as well. Regards to what changed from our budget study session on May 13th, there's a couple of items. The cultural arts program, the $315,760,000 was included. On the CIP side, there was a couple of items that was added. The Smoky Hollow parking for $900,000 on the general fund side was added. The Smoky Hollow paving project that's utilizing SB1 funds of $450,000 was also added. And lastly, the Public Works remodel project, which was proposed at $150,000, is now $70,000. As I mentioned, the Economic Uncertainty Fund was transferred to the general fund. Also on the PD side, there was a Flock DRF, or the drones as a first responder program. We initially had it sitting in the general fund, but it should have been in the COPS fund, so we went ahead and reallocated that out of the COPS fund. And lastly, there was a discussion in regards to fire overtime. So the fire department came back and decreased their overtime by $332,000. Regards to some outstanding items from our budget study session, there were a couple. First off, there was some direction from the city council in regards to a city's legislative and community affairs position, or potentially a consultant. So this position or consultant was to serve as a liaison and city advocate to major industrial, regional, and governmental entities, including Los Angeles International Airport, Hyperion Water Reclamation Plan, Chevron, and local, county, state, and federal partners. Collaborate and advocate on behalf of the city on projects, initiatives, regulatory matters, and issues. So staff is proposing kind of a 2-option here. One is to establish a full-time position, and currently in the city manager's office, there's a senior management analyst position that is vacant. So we were seeing if we wanted to reconfigure that position into a position that will be leading legislative affairs, intergovernmental relations, stakeholder engagement, and advocate support efforts. And that cost is approximately $165,000. The other option was to retain a consultant services on a part-time retainer. We will focus on strategic public affairs, governmental relations advisor, and stakeholder engagement as a consultant. And that cost is approximately $120,000. At this time, I do wanted to ask the council if 1 or 2 of these options are something you do want to consider, because this is not included in your proposed budget tonight. So I wanted at least some direction from council if we wanted to go ahead and add these options, or if you do not want to add any options. So I wanted to at least have some feedback from the and direction from city council.
You're going to have to wait till the public hearing is closed.
Okay. We'll wait until we get direction from after the public hearing.
My rules of order mallet is here.
All right. Then there are still some additional outstanding items. There was direction for regards to a comprehensive analysis for overtime for public safety. I did meet with the finance committee today, and they provided additional direction for me to go ahead and do a deep dive into their overtime usage. We were going to cover practices, policies, scheduling, actual hours. We're going to look back 5 years, and I will come back to the finance committee, and then we will report back to the city council as well. Also, a telephone budget analysis was asked by council to do a deep dive on that as well, and that includes landlines, internet, and phones. So I will be coming to Finance Committee regards to this analysis, and we will report back to the City Council on the outcome. Lastly, there's AB 1646. This is the Chevron Emergency Alerting System Program. I believe Chief Ali will be coming to Council in July, the first meeting in July, regards to a proposal and Council's direction on how to program that for the budget. Let me dive into our numbers. Our proposed revenues for all funds is $189.3 million for next year. 110.2 of that, or 58%, is the general fund. 79.1 million, or 42% of that, is the non-general fund. These are the various funds that contribute to the revenues, and the revenue for general fund is, as I mentioned, 110 million, total $189.3 million. Regards to the general fund, I just wanted to highlight for the council, line 8 transfers in. When we met on May 13th, it was $27,000, but now it's sitting at $2 million, and that's regards to the Economic Uncertainty Fund transferring in to the general fund, so we wanted to budget for that $2 million. So overall, as I mentioned, it's $110.2 million for next year. On the appropriations side, all funds expenditure appropriations at $214.6 million. 108.4 million, or 51% of that, is general fund. 106.2 million, or 49% of that, is non-general fund. That's comprises of the various funds that's listed up on the table. I wanted to just highlight a few of these items that have changed since our budget study session. On the general fund side, it's 108.4 million, and the subsequent slide will break down what those changes are on the general fund side. But on the all non-general fund, if you look at line 6 for the general fund CIP, that was the various CIP projects that were added, as I mentioned, the Smoky Hollow project and the changes to the community public works remodel program as well. On line 14, the Cultural Development Trust Fund, we added that $315,000 for that fund. And lastly, the line 18 is the Economic Uncertainty Fund of $2 million. That is the transfers out to the general fund that we budgeted. Regards to the general fund and what changed since our budget study session, as I mentioned, line 1 is the police, the $99,000 or the $100,000 was for the flock program. We moved that to the COPS fund. Fire department had a decrease of $193,000. And lastly, the transfers out, we had that change for the CIP. It was an increase for $820,000. So in total, as I mentioned, our budget for general fund is $108.4 million for next year. This just provides you additional detail regards to the general fund. So in revenue, we have $110.2 million. On the general fund expenditure side, $108.4 million. Of that, $104.6 is the operational general fund expenses, and then $3.8 is the transfers out to the general fund CIP project for next year. Regards to just operational, what's increasing for next year, salaries are going up by 5.3%. Retirements and benefits, that's going up by 12.2%, mostly driven by the UAL and also medical costs going up next year. And then lastly, the M&O, relatively flat, going up by 1.5%. So in totality, when we net out capital outlay and transfers out, the general fund expenditure is going up by 5.8% next year. On the FTE side, or positions, we are adding 1 full-time position to the budget next year. That's for the facilities maintenance supervisor in RPL. And then on the part-time side, we have 12.93 positions that we're adding. Majority of that is lifeguards and rec specialists for the plunge, but we also have some positions for cadets for the police department as well, included for next year. For transfers out, we have $13.7 million of transfers out. 9.5 of that is for our pension obligation bond payment for next year. We have 3.8 million for CIP budget for next year, general fund CIP. Solid Waste Fund has $175,000 transfers out, and lastly, the Senior Housing Fund for $200,000. Regards to our proposed general fund unassigned fund balance, we expect to end the year at 37.8 million. We'll bring in 110 in revenue next year. We should spend $104.6 million, so our estimated fund balance should be approximately 43.5 million. Per our fiscal policy, we want to keep 25% on reserve, so that's 26.1 million. So that should get us an ending estimated fund balance of $17.3 million. When we met in May 13th, that number was 15. The reason it's 17 is because of that $2 million that we moved from the Economic Uncertainty Fund to the general fund balance. And I wanted to highlight for the council, from that 17.3, we pay various things. We fund our $3.8 million general fund CIP. We also, as you are aware, that the plunge donations, the general fund funded or loaned out $5 million for that project. From what I've heard, we've collected $2.2 million so far. So any shortfall from that $5 million, we would have to cover from this unassigned fund balance as well. The upcoming MOUs regards to the PMA, that is going to also come out of this unassigned fund balance. And lastly, of course, any future CIPs that we want to fund also comes out of this fund balance as well. So regards to kind of the forecast looking out 5 years, next year, as I mentioned, we have a balanced budget, meaning the blue line is our revenues, orange is our expenditures. So our revenues are exceeding expenditures. But going into 27, 28, this is where we potentially see this looming deficit. It's less than $500,000, but we can forecast and see that potentially there will be a deficit. But if not in 27, 28, let's say, for instance, we bring in additional revenue that we did not anticipate, or we spend a little less than what we forecasted, I believe that it will be 28, 29 or so, that we will still see a structural deficit. And so what that means is that that gray line is kind of our fund balance, our savings account in a sense. We'll start dipping into that reserve, and I foresee that in 29, 30, if everything stays relative, meaning if we don't bring in any new taxes or revenues, and our expenditures continue to rise at about 7%. Historically, the last 10 years, it has grown about 7%. We should be in a structural deficit, but also our fund balance will be depleted by 29, 30. Looking out 10 years, it does not improve, but of course it compounds if everything stays the same. As you can see, the structural deficit continues to get bigger and bigger as you go out to year 9 and 10 as well. Regards to our reserves, we maintain our 25% reserve, so we'll keep $26.1 million. GFOA's best practice has always been at least 2 months worth of expenditures, but 25%, of course, is almost 3 months worth of expenditures. So we're above what's recommended, so that's a good thing. OPEB reserve will remain at $38.1 million, pension trust at $6.6 million, and our general fund CIP reserves at $900,000. Just a few more slides here for council. The all fund CIP going into next year, we're going to have $15.4 million of carryover from current year's CIP that's going to move into next year. We have $12.1 million of new projects next year. 1.6 of that is funded through the transportation fund. 5.2 of that is through our enterprise fund or our water and wastewater fund. $965,000 is from our special revenue fund. $600,000 is our stormwater fund or Measure W. And then lastly, $3.8 million is from our general fund. So in total, next year, we're looking at $27.5 million of CIP next year. Regards to the general fund CIP, since we met from May 13th, there was 2 changes, as I mentioned. The $900,000 was added for the Smoky Hollow parking, and then the public works remodel now is $70,000. So in total, $3.8 million for next year. This concludes staff's presentation. council's, our staff's recommendation is for council to adopt resolution approving the proposed fiscal year 26-27 citywide operating budget, capital improvement program budget, various financial policies, and GAN appropriations. Staff's available for any additional questions. Thank you.
The public hearing is now open for public input. Seeing none, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So
Yep.
moved.
Baldino seconds.
Boyles on the first, Baldino on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Council discussion and questions.
For the question about the new chief of staff position, or if we're going to go outsource that, I would prefer that, you know, it's okay to earmark that, but I'd like to see that come back with a little bit more information about if it's a full-time position, these are the responsibilities, this is what they would spend their time on, here's who they report to. If we're thinking about subbing this out to a consultant, what is the purpose of, you know, who are they gonna talk with? So it's hard for me to tell you which way to go without having more information about how that's gonna be fleshed out. And quite honestly, I'm not convinced this is a good use of resources to create another staff person or to hire consultants unless there is a specific purpose or need attached to it. So I'll need more information before I can give you direction on that.
Any other thoughts on that?
I would concur with Mayor Pro Tem. More detail would be helpful.
Yeah, I was a little confused about what, are we, setting aside that some in-between amount of money, or are we saying we're not having a discussion on this right now, correct? Because I thought the expectation was we would come back with exactly that, a lot more information on what this might look like.
Yes, absolutely. That was the intent, I think, just to show some potential scenarios, but we would bring back much more details on both of those options for council consideration.
I think we have consensus to come back on that one. Right now, just leave that money as the undesignated reserve.
Okay.
All right, other council comments, questions, concerns?
There was some conversation last time about how reimbursable overtime expenses for police and fire go into the general fund. Was there any further conversation about that in Finance Committee? Would that be something that would be incorporated into a future budget discussion?
Yes, so part of the Finance Committee meeting regards to overtime will cover overtime reimbursement. Regards to overtime reimbursement, the way I look at it is it's reimbursable. So then if we're spending $300,000, that's money that we will collect. Sometimes if it's strike team related, it takes a while for us to get that money back. But my goal with the Finance Committee is to provide that detail so that we know exactly, okay, what's true overtime, what's actually reimbursable overtime, so we can actually net that out so we know that true picture of what the overtime actual expenses are. Yeah, we'll provide that information to the Finance Committee, and then, of course, we'll report back to the City Council on that detail.
Thank you.
Did we include new expenditures for the land use element that's due in September? Does that have any costs incurred on it that's not budgeted?
We're gonna roll that over, whatever we don't spend.
We rolled that gets rolled over.
We have it
in the-
budgeted this year, whatever we don't spend, we're gonna roll it over.
Okay, that's why it's there, okay. Did we have any enhanced legal if we're gonna join the fire truck class action lawsuit? Does that incur any additional cost? Do we need to plus up that budget?
At this time, we don't have enough detail on that. We do know that there are some class actions forming. Generally, those are done on a contingency, which is why that action seems better than a direct lawsuit. So the attorneys are gonna take a large cut of whatever the recovery is.
An attorney's always gonna take the cut. You're just deciding on who it's gonna be. It's gonna be some guy from Kroll and not you.
It's not going to be my law firm, no.
Okay, very well.
We don't do class action lawsuits.
Do we have any insight on whether we're gonna have recoverable errors and omissions for design of the shooting range instead of us incurring the $200,000? Do we have any insight on who designed that inadequately?
Not at this point. We are looking into it. I'm working with our Public Works Department on identifying that original design contract and see where were there any shortfalls in that design.
I think the concern is that if we budget it now, it might slip as a priority, and at $200,000, it's a substantial outlay. So if we do approve the budget with that, let's make sure that that doesn't slip into the last year's projects pile.
Absolutely.
Other concerns, questions? I mean, I am concerned that we only reduced the overtime budget $300,000. I mean, the direction when we previously did this was that if we went to 100% paramedics, that would obviate the need to have all this extra overtime, because paramedic use is what was driving the overtime consideration. Now we're 100% paramedics, and the overtime has continued to increase. And that budget we can only find $300,000 in reduction on that in a month?
With respect for the finance committee, like, we haven't even begun to start to peel this onion as far as how overtime is allocated, how it's used, what's backfill for training versus being sick. So we're just getting started. I think the 300 was just the chief coming in and slashing his own proposed budget because he's heard the concerns from the dais, but we have not even begun to roll up our sleeves to figure out, you know, how that works and how full-time staffing balances with overtime time. It's going to take some while. It's going to take some time.
But we're now looking at 71% of our general fund going to salary and retirement.
Very true.
I mean, are there other things that, as a city, we want to do? I mean, am I a crazy person? I mean, I guess I'm a crazy person.
No, it was only, last month, though, that we asked for that OT reduction. So like the Mayor Pro Tem said, we're going to dig into the overtime. I think it would be kind of arbitrary to throw out a number right now without really understanding it.
Except that we go through this every year.
Yeah, and that's why we're going to try to figure out how we always end up in the same spot, despite, you know, being told, well, we're going to change this, or if we can just hit this milestone, that'll make a difference. And so we need to take time to take a serious look at it. And it's not anything that's going to result during a budget.
Well, I mean, we could resolve it pretty quickly by not budgeting it.
We could. That would be pretty harsh. But
I mean, as harsh as going 100% paramedic, that cost us a fortune.
It did. It did. And that was supposed to be a direct correlation to reduced time in training and all these other things. But again, right now I've got more questions than answers for you, to be honest. But Drew and I are going to drill down and see what we can find.
I guess I'm a voice in the wilderness. Any other council questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. I know this takes a lot. I appreciate your professionalism and your ability to kind of be flexible when we throw you changes during this budget process. So thanks.
No, thank you.
City Attorney, I guess we'll read the resolution by title only.
Mayor and Council, a resolution adopting the 2026-2027 final operating and capital improvements budget and the 2026-2027 appropriations limit for the city of El Segundo is ready for adoption.
Would someone like to move adoption?
So moved.
Keldorf on the first.
Baldino on the second.
Baldino on the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our second public hearing. This is a time and place heretofore fixed for a public hearing. This is public hearing number 2 to consider the El Segundo becoming a charter city, the proposal of a city charter, and the proposed charter's content. City Clerk, was proper notice of the hearing given in a timely manner?
Yes, it was.
Has any written communication been received regarding this public hearing?
Yes, we have received several letters, 6 letters.
Okay, question for you. Now, the public hearing part, do they give public comment now, or do we do the letters? How does this work?
Generally speaking, we don't do the letters. They already have been made a matter of public record. They're loaded up on the website. They're available.
And they're in our emails?
In the binder.
Okay, and they're in our emails?
Yes.
Okay, but do they comment to the podium? Or do we do that after the presentation part?
No, it's, if you follow the script.
I'm following the script.
Right. So we have.
But the law has changed.
No.
Okay, all right. So in that case, the public hearing is now open. Mr. George will make the presentation.
Our city attorney will make that presentation.
I will make this somewhat brief, and then after public comments, I know there's been a number of letters and comments that come in, and then I will respond to those that are legal, and council can respond to those that are policy. Sorry. I'll make this relatively brief up front. There are a lot of questions and comments that have come in, which is the point of this process. It is the second public hearing that's being held with regard to the potential of the city considering to put on the ballot a charter city issue, and that is to whether or not the city wants to become a charter city rather than a general law city. And just for historical purposes, going back to 2024, a little more than 2 years ago, there were a couple cases that came out, one that on SB 9, which was some housing legislation, that found that because it was the trial court level and it went up on appeal, that certain cities, namely Torrance, Del Mar, Carson, Redondo Beach, and Whittier, were charter cities, that they weren't subject to SB 9. Now that's up on appeal, and it's been so far limited to just those cities. And then there was also a case out of Rancho Palos Verdes that made the point that a charter city could be exempt from certain housing legislation at the state level. And so because of that, there was some interest expressed by council in potentially looking at becoming a charter city, and that was really the impetus of this issue. At the time those came out, there's a process to go through to become a charter city. There was not time to hit those benchmarks as far as public hearings and to prepare the documents and to have the public hearings and get it on the election in November of 2024. That just was not, it wasn't possible from a time point of view. Fast forward to this year, it was actually last year, I think it was discussed back in September, starting the process up and making sure that the dates weren't missed. So the process began again, and again, the purpose really has been focused on housing, is my understanding. It was no intention to otherwise change the operations of the city. It was to take advantage of the potential of being a charter city to keep local control over particularly housing, which is zoning and land use issues, as the state has for approximately the last 10 years passed numerous housing laws, some of which they amend almost every year. And the council expressed some interest in reviewing this issue for purpose of that. Because of that, and there are two different paths a city can go down for looking at becoming a charter city. They can form a charter commission, which is a lengthy process, generally used by cities that are going to form or create very lengthy charters, which are going to lay out governance and pretty much every aspect of what the city is going to do or how it's going to be operated from a process and to some extent a substantive point of view. Because the city council was really interested in looking, I mean, the focus was on this housing issue. The recommendation from staff was not to go down that path, but rather to go with a very simple charter process, which some cities have done, where the charter is only several pages long to maybe a dozen pages long, and it would retain general city rights, but the focus here has been on, again, housing. And so with that, and that's the presentation. So this is the second public hearing, the point of which is to get the public's sentiments on what the city is doing, and then potentially adjust the language of the charter or not move forward with the process. That is up to the council. But after the comments are made, I'm prepared to respond to some of the comments that council's received as far as the email communications and whatever is brought forward tonight during public communications.
That's the presentation.
That's it.
Very well. The public hearing is now open for public input.
Mr. Mayor, we have 9 people who would like to address the council this evening.
You may fire when ready.
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right. Christy Zeman, please.
Hello again. I just want to make mention that I just only recently heard about the city council's thought of incorporating into a charter city just a few days ago. It was very much a surprise to me, as it has been to a number of other people that I've spoken with. Nobody in the community that I know seems to be aware that this is even potentially happening. I did some research, so I'm aware of what the pros and cons are for a charter city. There are some concerns. Number one, I've not heard of any town hall meetings to address any of this with the entire community, so that's concern number one. Concern number two is that there's even a potential to put it on a ballot, which is really concerning. And I do think that there seems to be some things that are missing. One, in the very little research that I had time to do, there are some charter cities, and I think it's the city of Bell that is currently going through some type of scandal regarding the fact that they became a charter city and money went in places that it shouldn't. So I have concerns, and I think that the only way that you can allay concerns that I have will be to have some town hall meetings and to find out what our community is thinking about. And if I understand Mr. Hensley correctly, the reason behind this interest in the city charter is so that we can not have the housing issue, I guess, that the state is imposing on us. I don't think that's a very good reason for why you'd want to become a city charter. I have concern that if we were to become a city charter, taxes would become a big issue, because as a city charter, you can actually impose taxes that are different from what the state requires, that you could even charge more taxes, which I'm not in a position for more taxes. And I thank you, and that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Eman.
Kelly Stewart.
Hello neighbor. Hi, I'm Kelly Stewart. So I'm going to read a timeline of all the information the public has received from the city concerning the proposed city charter. And this was compiled by Dave Hollup. This is his work. And it was from the transcripts of city council meetings, minutes, and agendas. Just so you can understand how we are perceiving how the information has been given to us. So at the May 21st, 2024 city council meeting, the city attorney briefly mentioned during his closing report that there would be an item on the next agenda for discussion regarding the possibility of placing a charter city measure on the November 2024 ballot. And then no discussion appeared on the next agenda. At the February 4th, 2025 City Council meeting, under Council Member Reports, Mayor Pimentel requested direction on whether the city should explore becoming a charter city. The discussion lasted only a few minutes. Mayor Pimentel and Council Member Baldino expressed interest in exploring the concept, and the council agreed that the matter should return on a future agenda. The issue then appeared on the June 17th, 2025 agenda as charter city consideration and committee appointment. Following a relatively brief discussion, the council voted 4-0 to appoint Mayor Pimentel and Mayor Pro Tem Baldino as a committee to draft a charter, assess costs, and evaluate placing a measure on the November 2026 ballot. At the September 16th, 2025 meeting, during council reports at the end of the meeting, Mayor Pimentel asked the city attorney for a rough timeline regarding the city charter subcommittee's work. This exchange lasted roughly 90 seconds. The matter then appeared on the March 17th, 2026 agenda. For the first time, the public saw a draft charter, a proposed timeline, and a summary of the differences between the general law and charter cities. Council discussed the item and directed staff to proceed with the legally required hearing process. And the first legally required hearing was held on April 21st, 2026. That hearing generated one speaker, and that brings us to tonight's second legally required public hearing. And in my opinion, this has been a bit of an opaque process, and this appears to be moving forward even as residents have many unanswered questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Holly Lipscomb.
Hello, my name's Holly Lipscomb. I'm a 43-year resident of El Segundo, and I'm speaking on behalf of Melissa Coeto tonight, who couldn't be here. Charter conversion is one of the most consequential structural decisions a city can make. It permanently alters the legal framework governing everything from elections to contracting to labor relations. Yet the process that it has brought us to this point has been marked by opacity, rushed timelines, and a troubling disregard for the public's right to meaningful participation. Public notices were poorly advertised, community meetings just barely meet the minimum requirements dictated by law, and the draft charter itself, a document that may govern the city for generations, was made available to the public with nary a whisper. When a governing body moves this fast on something this permanent, that is not efficiency, that is exclusion. A fundamental question remains unanswered. Who had access to the drafting process and who didn't? Charter language doesn't write itself. Attorneys, consultants, and stakeholders may have shaped these provisions, but the public has not received clear accounting of who was in the room, what interests they represented, or what alternatives were considered and rejected. We are being asked to consider and potentially ratify language whose origins we cannot fully trace. The compressed schedule for study, public comment, and ballot measure itself is not a coincidence. It is a choice. Rushed processes consistently favor those who are already organized, informed, and who stand to benefit from the expanded local authority a charter city provides. Ordinary residents, by contrast, need time to read, organize, ask questions, and demand answers. That time has not been meaningfully provided to us. Urgency without justification is a red flag, not a virtue. We have been given no independent fiscal analysis, no comparative study of similarly situated cities that converted, and no honest accounting of the risks. In fact, not even a staff report has been requested, prepared, or presented to address the potential administrative, fiscal, and bureaucratic realities of such change. Transparency isn't a procedural nicety here. It is the only basis on which voters can make an informed decision. Without it, a yes vote is not an exercise in democracy. It is a leap of faith demanded by people who benefit from our ignorance. The residents of this city deserve real transparency, real information, and real discussion, openly, slowly, and with full public participation. A flawed process doesn't just threaten the charter, it poisons whatever governance structure emerges from it. A city built on a foundation of rushed, opaque decision-making will carry that original sin forward. Good governance doesn't just produce good outcomes. It earns them through open, accountable deliberation. This process has failed that test. The voters of the city deserve better than to be handed a done deal and have it called democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lipscomb. For Melissa.
John Picaver.
Good evening, Council. My name is John Picaver. I'm not here tonight to argue whether becoming a charter city is good or bad. I'm here because I don't think most residents, as we've heard in the comments, have had a fair chance to even understand what exactly is being proposed. I think you're aware that I pay attention to happenings in town, particularly from our local government, so I know what it looks like when the city genuinely seeks community input. We've all seen it. When there are major planning efforts, the city holds workshops, there are outreach events, surveys go out. Residents aren't just invited into the conversation, they are actively solicited. That's how a community process works. What happened here feels very different. Most people I talk to have never heard a word about this charter city status proposal until the last few weeks, some not even until just the other day. But honestly, that's not that surprising. The first public hearing apparently resulted in just one public comment. One. That doesn't tell me that the community was sought out. It tells me the community was largely left out. I've heard it said that nothing has been decided and that voters will ultimately decide. Of course we will. But putting something on the ballot isn't the same as having community conversation about it. And the order of when that conversation, when that happens, that really matters in the order that it happens. A real community process helps people understand what they are choosing and why before the issue essentially becomes a political campaign. A ballot measure asks people to choose yes or no. And once something is headed to the ballot, the dynamic changes. At that point, the focus naturally shifts away from open-ended community engagement and toward persuading voters to support or oppose the measure. It becomes about winning. Campaigns form, messaging hardens, and sides get chosen. That is very different from a genuine public process centered on education, discussion, questions, and community input before a direction has already been set. I think I may understand your argument here, though. There is an election coming up in November that makes it a lot cheaper to place it on the ballot now. And I understand the argument that the city wants flexibility to leverage charter status in case state law changes around zoning in the future. Now, that's a whole different argument. I mean, we haven't built an apartment in El Segundo since I've been alive. I don't think that is going to come to fruition where their charter cities are exempt. The courts continually rule against that, but I'm going to try to stick to process here. I don't think cost efficiency and extreme hypothetical future scenarios are reason enough to rush the biggest change in structural governance in our city's history before the community has had time to fully understand and discuss it. El Segundo has been a general law city for more than a century. If we are going to seriously consider changing that, we must slow down, make sure residents actually understand what is being proposed before this goes to the ballot. That is not an unreasonable request. It is responsible governance. I hope you will consider the timeline and give the community a genuine opportunity to engage before moving this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pickhaver.
Nancy Johns.
Hello, City Council. My name is Nancy Johns, and I'm a 34-year resident of El Segundo. I try to be civically minded, but I don't always get here, but this one kind of caught me off guard. 2 words, charter city. What is the purpose? Does a city of our size and population and current city staffing levels have the bandwidth to do proper vetting on pros and cons of going this route? Why did I not hear anything about charter city considerations when I attended the meeting in the Sue Carter room at the El Segundo Library about El Segundo City Vision 2050? What is the compelling list of reasons why we should even pursue this? Certainly considering the new concept of city government's framework is a move that should be well-researched with a good list of pros and cons for constituents to make informed decisions, thereby letting their elected officials hear their voices. Let's make sure that transparency is on the forefront and any measurable changes to governance in El Segundo can be decided by its citizens through their city council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Johns.
Melissa McCaverty.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Melissa McCaverty. I'm a 24-year resident of the city. I just want to echo everything John Pickhaver just said. He far more succinctly and articulately summarized a lot of the concerns that I have. I do appreciate the city attorney acknowledging some of the questions probably from my email. So I am just following up on that. I do want to thank you all for your service to our city and the time you do give to our city. I appreciate what that takes. And I do have a great respect for each of you sitting up there. So my main question was why now? And I think that was answered. I did go back and listen to the previous discussions that were had by you all regarding the city charter, and I do have to say I know the first time it was brought up, you said, hey, we need some more information, and then it was brought up again. The conversations for the people in favor of it did feel a little informal and kind of like, yeah, let's do it. It's an insurance policy that we might not need, and it's pretty cheap, so let's do it. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that how we make decisions? So that's where my concern really came in. Again, what Pickhaver said, I'm not trying to say I'm for or against the city becoming a charter city. I don't know how I feel about that. I probably might be in favor of it down the road. Just I'm a County of Los Angeles employee. I understand charters, and they are common enough, but it's just where we are now feels rushed to get it on this November's ballot. And if I heard things properly, if we don't put it on this November 26th ballot, we have to wait till November of 28, which is why I suspect there may be the rush feeling amongst the community or possibly even the council. A question I have about the whole charter, the cities you mentioned that are charter cities was City of LA, City of Santa Ana, and some other big cities. But then simultaneously, we said, well, those cities aren't run very great. So I'm like, well, if they're charter cities and they're not run great, why are we trying to be like them? It's the old question, if it's not broke, why are we trying to fix it? I'm running out of time. So just so you know, I know you all know that once things go to the voters, oh boy, because my employer, the County of Los Angeles, is going from a 5-person board to a 9-person board because the voters voted for it. I don't know how well informed that voting constituency was when they came among it. So once we do this, we can't undo it. I don't know that it seems like a worthy investment at this time for the reasons that were stated. I'm open to hearing all the other reasons why it may be a good thing, and it just feels way too rushed. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCafferty.
Anya Goldstein.
I feel like all the speakers are within 500 yards of my house. What does that say?
It is a good question. Mayor Pimentel, Mayor Pro Tem Baldino, on a scale of 1 to 10, how sure are you that the language in the charter does what you claim it's going to do? I'm guessing that I would have heard back from you if it was a 10. You've told us that the proposed charter just codifies general law. It serves as an insurance policy if state law ever changes. But that's not true. 4 key sections, sections 103, 300, 600, and 601, incorporate only parts of state law, leaving the council free to pass ordinances changing everything else in those areas, including the recall procedures for this very chamber, without ever going back to voters. 6 other sections, 302, 303, 305, 306, 500, and 700, go further. They explicitly disclaim state law and hand the council sweeping new powers over public financing, utilities, land use, and fines, powers the council does not have today, powers that have never been publicly discussed. And remember, it's not this council's intentions that matter. It's what any future council could do with these powers. I don't think there has been any discussion at all of the language of the charter. The budget process seems so much more thorough than this permanent governance change. The budget presentation was linked directly from the webpage for this meeting. The charter was not. I had to dig this charter out of a 422-page packet released just 4 days ago and parse it myself to discover that it has been totally misrepresented. That alone should give this council pause. I haven't figured out whether this is sloppy drafting due to the rushed process or a deliberate power grab for which the rushed process is cover. I reached out to you, Mayor Pimentel, and Mayor Pro Tem Baldino 2 days ago. That's half the time between when we got this 4 days ago and today, but you did not respond. I haven't heard back. Councilmember Keldorf, thank you for being the lone voice of reason on this so far. To the rest of council, I hope you'll read the room tonight and pause this process. It's not too late to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goldstein.
Cheryl Smith.
Hello, members of City Council. My name is Cheryl Smith. I'm a resident, and I was coming with a bunch of questions. That's mostly what I had was things about education night, information meetings. Is there going to be a charter committee or a commission established? I really didn't know that much about it, so I just want to give a huge thank you to the city attorney and to my fellow citizens for educating me on this, because honestly, I didn't know that much about what this meant, this whole process. And while we all know, I'm not going to hide it, that I am in favor of, us controlling our land use and buildings, I do hope that some of the other elements that have been brought up, like taxes and such, are addressed in this charter for our consideration. So I just want to thank you for looking into this with in-depth knowledge and taking the public voice into consideration, and I look forward to further discussion on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
And our last speaker this evening is Pat Hachia.
Thank you for pronouncing my last name correctly. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I love El Segundo and the culture of El Segundo and hope to keep loving it. But my concern is that we're changing the potential form of government without adequately alerting the community, the people who live and work here and make it what it is. There's a lot happening right now. I try to pay attention to what's really important, but it's hard. I only found out about the potential of El Segundo becoming a charter city through the El Segundo Parents Network, good old ESPN on Facebook. I think that we should put in as much effort, if not more, in engaging and teaching the community on this important matter as we do about advertising for the concerts in the park and the art walk happening in August, which I love. Maybe we should have Parks and Rec do the outreach. Government can do better and need to do better. One thing I value about El Segundo are the schools. The kids are watching us. Are we teaching them about good civic engagement? Are we teaching them that we as Americans still believe in good government? Are we still teaching them that a democracy is as good as an educated citizenry? And as a good government, and hopefully even a model government, I would ask the City Council to increase public engagement on the charter city concept and vote. Here are some of my suggestions. Create a short PowerPoint with a recording explaining why this is being considered and proposed and post it on the city's website. Use the city's newsletter to advertise this recorded explanation. Promote the explanation on social media. Work with the high school political behavior and U.S. history classes to explain why we are doing this. We need to practically teach the next generation about political decision-making. Let's hold at least one interactive workshop to educate and engage anyone who might be interested in this matter and promote this on the city's website and social media. I just want to be proud of how our city is governed, and I really want to understand this process. I've never been through this process, and I consider myself kind of educated. I have 2 degrees, but this is a new thing for me, and even coming here tonight is a new thing for me. So I would ask that you please help educate our local community before we go through this process to make sure that it's ultimately successful and so that the vote won't go down in flames. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. That's everybody? All right, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Kelda for the first.
Baldino seconds.
Baldino second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? 4-0, it passes. All right, council discussion.
Before we get to discussion, I do have to disclose that I met with Anna Goldstein and Melissa Kudo on May 27, 2026 to discuss the charter. And I met with our city attorney and staff as well.
As did I.
As did I. Not Melissa. Oh, yes, I did meet. Yes.
Yes, you did. I was there.
And Mayor Pimentel.
All right. Council discussion.
City attorney, do you want to respond to any of the legal comments?
You know, the process and whether it's long enough, that's a council policy question. As far as the legal issues, and again, with the in mind that the intent was not to change any of the governance or general law rules with regard to numerous topics, which I'll go through in a moment. The intent was to try to preserve the local control over land use and zoning. So with that in mind, this was drafted in a very simple way to state just that you know, this was going to be for municipal laws generally, general law powers, continuity, and to keep things basically as they are as you read through the first 5 or 6 sections, and to keep the city manager form of government as it is currently. Public Works contracting would remain the same, which is a big topic. The fact that not every code section from the Public Works contract is in here, which is multiple books, it incorporates all of the California Labor Code sections and the Public Works process. So I'm not certain how to respond other than it does just that. I do have a couple revisions that if the council's interested in, I listened to the comments, and I think there's some tightening up that could be done to maybe give people a higher comfort level. Point was raised that, the council doesn't have the right to have utilities and franchises. Well, there's already 3 utilities in the city. There's the water, the wastewater, the solid waste. You have the authority without a vote of the people to form a gas and electric utility. You could do those things. Those are highly regulated in that Proposition 218 regulates how you can charge for those in great detail, and that's applicable to charter and general law cities. And then with regard to the actual water or the quality of the water, the wastewater, et cetera, that's all regulated by state and federal laws, which again, whether it's a charter city or a general law city isn't going to make any difference. You're going to be held to those same standards of whether it's the water or the effluent and what you discharge, again, very heavily regulated. And then when it comes to construction, the facilities for those things, given that you're going to follow the Public Works contract, nothing's going to change in those areas. So you do already have the authority in those areas. And enterprises, you have numerous enterprises, the city's golf course, the aquatic center, utilities are also enterprises. Finance director can speak to this better than I am, but you already have the authority to form enterprises. You have enterprises, you run enterprises. So those things already exist. As far as elections, the intent was to not vary at all from the current processes and requirements as they apply to any municipal election. I've actually got some language to make that even clearer. I think our language did say that, but given there's concern, I've come up with some language to make that even crystal clear that there's no intention whatsoever to allow the council now or in the future to make any changes to the election process. It's not in the election code or in other state laws unless a vote of the people occurred. With regard to, I'm just going through the list here, financing and expenditures. Again, I came up with some language that was concerned expressed about financing. For cities to borrow money, it's very highly regulated by the SEC and federal law, so it does have a lot of guardrails on it already, but I came up with a little language. This is not lengthy that I came up with, that may make the public feel better. As far as taxes, since Prop 218 was passed in 1995, general law cities and charter cities are subject to the same taxing laws. And so whether you're a general law city or a charter city, your ability to tax and how you can do it are exactly the same. So again, the intent of this was not to have any power grab by the council. Again, it was all based upon the land use control over zoning and land use, and to try to keep everything else status quo. But again, I did look at some of the comments made and took those into consideration. And if the council wants me to hand it out, I'd be happy to do so. Very minor changes, but I think important to make people feel maybe more comfortable. Do you want me to hand those out?
Sure.
Okay. One of the things I put in the preamble was to make a statement that the city is converting from a general law city to a charter city for the purpose of attempting to regain control over zoning and land use issues throughout the city. You can give copies to the council also. In section 304, which deals currently with gift of public funds, and one of the reasons that was put in for the public was that charter cities could make gift of public funds, and the council determined that that's not something that it wanted to do. So what I'm recommending and adding to that is to change the title to borrowing and expenditure of public funds, leave the language that's currently in there in section 304, which, since the public doesn't have this in front of you, I'll read it and then I'll so that everybody understands. The city shall be prohibited from giving or lending of public funds to any person or entity, private or public, in accordance with Article 16, Section 6 of the California Constitution. And what I'm proposing would be added to that, and all borrowing and expenditures of funds by the city must comply with existing state laws and, as may be amended, are accepted, reaffirmed, and made applicable to the city. So that would mean any expenditure, borrowing, financing. The rules will be the same for the city in the future as they are today. With regard to elections, which was Section 600, what I was proposing to include there are to replace the language that's in that section with regard to all procedural and substantive requirements regarding the filling or recall of any elected official seat, initiative petitions, referenda, or ballot measures, or any other municipal election issue. All existing state laws, and as may be amended, are accepted, reaffirmed, and made applicable to the city. So those are my comments, and those would be, if the council's interested, revisions we've made to, I think, address some of the concerns were made. I think some of the concerns that were raised, again, the city already has the ability to do a number of the things that people are concerned about. I don't know how to change that. That's, I mean, in current law, you have that ability, so. But I'd be happy to answer any other questions if the council thinks I missed something or didn't explain it well.
Other council discussions?
What is the deadline for when you need authority from the council in order to be put it on the ballot?
The county requires that we transmit the election documents 88 days before the election, which is about the first week of August. They like to get it before that. City clerk likes to get it out before that. But we have, in the past, gotten it out at the last day. So that is the very last day by which it can be done, 88 days
First
before.
week of August?
Yeah, end of the first week of August.
Okay. And we have a meeting in 2 weeks, and then our next city council meeting after that is not till
We have, well, no, we have the first,
We got a July one.
Oh, July 7th. Okay. Okay.
and you could hold a special meeting also to, you know, up to the council.
Right.
Again, that, the timing and process, and whether this is the right time or not, that's a policy call.
No, I understand, I understand. I'm just wondering if there is a consensus up here to either continue this so that we can have a Q&A put up on the website, do a town forum, and then come back in July or whenever makes sense for staff to just put the word out there. I have no problem with more public comment and public participation, especially in light of the fact that we just got some more fun attorney language to ponder. And then, you know, we can volunteer Attorney General David King, since he's not here, to attend town halls and answer questions if that's has the appetite of the council. But that would be my suggestion, is let's continue it and then put the word out there and see if we can get some more public comment.
Yeah.
Further discussion?
I mean, I think I've been pretty consistent in speaking out against feeling like there's a necessity for this. I would certainly prefer to see us continue it. If we're moving forward, I'm not comfortable voting on it tonight. I am certainly not a lawyer. I can speak with no confidence on any of the concerns that Ms. Goldstein raised, nor can I really, without much more research, talk about, you know, Mr. Hensley's response to that. I will say, and I do want to say publicly, I don't know this side of the law, but I do feel like I'm quite confident in knowing state housing laws. It's been my profession to work in housing since I came to California in 2004, and I feel an obligation to say I think it is misguided to suggest that being a charter city will give us, as the city of El Segundo, any authority over state housing law. And the unintended consequences of all of the things that we have yet to discuss and research, to me, far exceed the very, very, very small chance that the state of California is going to say, you are exempt, or you are exempt without some huge exorbitant fee, massive prevailing wage, something that would prohibit us from building housing anyway. I would rather see us spend the same amount of energy talking about how we can provide housing that meets the needs of our community versus continually spending that energy in this fight. So if we were to vote on this now, I would be a no again. I would much rather see us continue it, at least to give the public some additional time to weigh in.
Further council discussion?
Yeah, I used to sit on the Southern Cal Association of Governments Regional Council, and one of the purviews we had was the RENA allocation, which is absolutely arbitrary. No one understands how the math is even done. It's a black box, so much so that there's new legislation that requires full disclosure and transparency about how those numbers are done. And we were told we had to add 600 units to our, roughly, to our facility. We have 17,000 people in 1 square mile. We're denser than Hermosa Beach. And most people don't understand that. And we have the most important square miles around us economically. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It never should be. And if this charter gives the city the ability in the future or presently to address the housing mandates in any way, shape, or form, absolutely in favor of it. But we have to put it to the vote of the people. And the other question I have is, why are we carving out procurement? Because procurement is one area of charter law that gives us more specific flexibility and independence from some of the state mandates. So I would ask that if we're going to take more time to bring this back, we should look carefully at the procurement provisions that are allowed as well by following the Constitution of California versus some of these state statutes. Thank you.
All right, over to me. Couple things. One, I think local control is a virtue in its own right, and for the very reason that's being exhibited here, because you guys can come talk to us and say, this, we don't like this or we do like that, as opposed to preemption by state authorities who are, by definition, mysterious. Like, I bet if we went to the 17,200 people in El Segundo, we subtracted out 3,500 kids and asked everybody else if they knew who their state senator was or their assembly person is, I don't think they would know, right? So state law becomes impenetrable to a degree, and local control, irrespective of concerns about housing, and I would not recommend adding this preamble. I think local control is a virtue in and of itself, because local governance works, because you can come in or see us at the baseball field or whatever and tell us what you think. I mean, right? Like during COVID, right? I couldn't get an at-bat in my softball game without getting an earful about masks from the catcher, right? I mean, that's local governance at work, and that's why I think there's a virtue of charter stuff in its own right. I would also say that I almost want to give a tip to Dave Hollop for putting up that timeline, like an actual gratuity, because one of the central frustrations up here is this charter city idea. I got elected in 2018, and it's been kicked around twice a year, every year. And it's like just disappears into the ether. And then to Ms. Goldstein's point, the reason you didn't get a response is we got the charter the same time you did. How does that sound? Yeah, pretty upsetting, right? 8:16 a.m. or whatever on Friday, I'm on the way to work. I get your email, and it's like section 302. I'm like, well, that's gonna have to wait till after water polo. You know, so that part on the elected end, I'm incredibly sympathetic to the idea of continuing this for digestion, just for that exact fact of the digestion. We have a lot more time to research a lot of other issues than we have had this in its final gestated form. And that's a very frustrating thing on our part. I would say that in the idea of participatory governance, there is always a push-pull, and it's on us to push things out to the community. At the same time, I would urge you to talk to your friends and neighbors and say, we're here every 2 weeks. There are seats available. So come on in and listen to us as well. So there's a few things that I would do, and I will move on. One, I think that to Councilmember Boyle's piece about procurement, there was a little bit of a seductive element in our last discussion about changing things for taxation purposes in the potential charter, and we backed off that because we wanted to hew strictly to making this mirror general law as much as possible. So I would not advocate a change in that portion of it. But to the Mayor Pro Tem's point, I would be very happy to see this come back in 2 weeks, and in the meantime, put out a little bit of messaging of, here's what we're trying to accomplish, here's what it says, poke holes in it so we can make any last minute changes. Or then vote and decide not to go forward. So, Councilmember Boyles.
I would just ask that you include that procurement analysis because there's prevailing wage considerations in there. I'm not interested in the tax authority. I'm interested in the prevailing wage authority
If
changes.
we deviate from prevailing wage, the retribution at the state level by law is
Let's study it. I'm just saying, if we're going to study this further, let's bring it back and analyze this in more detail. That's all I'm asking.
Mr. Mayor?
Ma'am.
I would like to get some weigh on from Mr. Hensley. I believe the council must wait 21 days from tonight's second public hearing so that it can appear on the agenda after June 23rd.
Is it 21 days if we pass it, or can we just continue it for
21
further
days
discussion?
from the date of the second hearing.
From the date of the second hearing.
is
But,
tonight.
but if we
Well,
continue,
that's-
then
well-
it's still say part of the second hearing, wouldn't it?
No, the council can meet again to talk about this. What they can't decide for 21 days is
To
whether
put
to
it
put
on
on the
the
ballot.
Okay,
So
so
they
yes, you
wanna-
can meet, but you can't.
Right.
At that meeting, if you have it before the 23rd, you will not be voting on whether or not to put it on the ballot.
On July 7th, we wouldn't be voting on it. We would have to wait
You could
21
do it-
days.
You could do it on July 7th.
We could do it on July 7th.
Yes.
Which was, right. So you could hold multiple meetings between now and then, or between now and then, the first
Yes,
week
you
of
could have a
August.
special meeting after the 23rd.
So it's, you have, if you, 60, wait, July, yeah, almost 60 days to hold as many meetings as you want to have.
And just to add fun things to the conversation, if we do continue it, can we include an analysis of a handful of our local cities who have pushed back on state housing law? Thinking of Huntington Beach, and then, I don't know this, we had a conversation earlier about some charter cities that did potentially win some sort of or it's under appeal, but there was some initial, I don't know anything about that, so I think it would be helpful to the conversation to understand what's really happened, what has been proposed, and then been denied on appeal.
We'll include that in just briefly so that, because I do think those, those are important details, and you and I have talked that, there's, at the moment, there's not, the state is doing everything it can to force housing on cities. Huntington Beach took the approach of we're not complying with anything. That was probably not a wise approach. It blew up in their face, to say the least. There's been some other lawsuits where they were more, let's say, targeted and not, we're not going to comply with anything. It was more of targeted at certain laws, and so those have had some success. So I don't want to say there's been a tremendous amount of success, but there's been some. How that's going to look in the future, I can't predict. I think that's part of the issue here. But be happy to bring back that analysis.
That'd be great. And
If
I would
we wanna
include our
include that-
own city.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Last thing, I promise. I know City of El Segundo, when I was on Planning Commission, SB 9, SB 10, we enacted some development standards that then the state HCD came back and said, nope, you got to roll those back. So even we've had that experience of trying to push up against it and getting our hands slapped.
Absolutely. I mean, the ADU laws have been changed 7 times in 10 years, and which is an interesting, if you're up in Sacramento and you're writing something and you do it in such a poor fashion that you have to change it 7 times. I mean, we were doing nothing more than complying with what they told us to do. And then they would come back and say, well, we don't like you doing that, so we're not going to allow you to do that. And then we would do it another way that was compliant with the law, and they'd write back and say, well, we're going to change the laws again. That's essentially what's gone on. So it's not been the city saying we won't comply. It's, well, we put things in place that were consistent with what was written, but then Sacramento decided they didn't like what they wrote. And that's been a big problem, or challenge.
I'm okay with adding that analysis, but I will add my own bias on this, is I don't think this is a referendum and an obsession with housing. This is about local control. And that is our most manifest piece of it when it comes down to land uses, where the preemption is the most striking right now, but it's certainly not the only item for it. But do we have consensus to ask for this to be continued, to add the analysis of procurement, housing, and overall legal new?
Mayor, if I may, if we're going to do the exhaustive analysis and we're going to be having further discussions with the city, let's look at every potential right that we have, charter city versus general law, all the different areas of governance for the city, and just do a comprehensive analysis, because we're going to get asked that question anyway by our city people.
And there are charts, and I I think they're even they're attached to this staff report and the prior staff reports about the major differences between general law and charter cities. And to make this clear, the state legislature and the courts have taken what were very broad difference between what a general law and charter city could do, and that is now a very narrow road. So those distinctions are very few at this point, which is why we put them in a chart, but we will focus on that more too, and maybe some more explanation about those differences.
And concurrently, we would ask the city staff to put together some messaging that we can publish for people about what the general concept is here, and to please let us know and how the process works. Do we have consensus for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Mayor, I'm going to do something a little unorthodox. I think Robert's Rule of Order and our city laws will allow it, but I want to actually make a motion to reconsider item 12, which is the budget.
Well, hold on, we have to finish this one. Can we come back to reconsider?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then, all right, so we have council consensus we provide to staff, so therefore nothing needs to be read. Madam Clerk, now can we go back to item 12? Because this will close the public hearing. Okay. Motion to reopen or reconsider? Reconsider, you're on the winning side. Okay, go ahead.
I was on the winning side. I voted in favor, so.
Yeah, that lets you reconsider according to Robert's rules.
I've just had time to reflect on it, and I was thinking about, Mayor, your comments afterwards about the overtime, and I don't think we should actually approve the budget with that overtime allowed. I think that we should give the Finance Committee time to digest and analyze this further, because this has been something, it's not like we just voiced this concern within this budget session. To your point, this is something that we have brought up consistently year after year about the overtime. So let's dig into it in the meantime. So I just want to change my vote to not be. Yes.
That would be your motion, and the question
Thank
is,
you.
since
Do we have a motion to reconsider?
then
I guess my motion is to reconsider, right?
Right, so then you would need 2 more votes to be able to reconsider that. That's the first motion.
This is so exciting. We have a parliamentarian. I will second your motion to reconsider. Boyle's on the first, Pimentel on the second. All those in favor?
Can I add a little context, Mayor, just further to my colleagues, which is, Mayor Pro Tem, we're on the Finance Committee. I just want time to dig in a little bit further. I don't think it's anything urgent anyway. If there was a need from police and fire, like there's certain overtime that's absolutely critical because it's FLSA contingent or mandated, required, then, you know, I'd consider allowing that. But otherwise, I think we should have time to dig into this further.
I understand the motivation and why you want to take this approach to it, to give it some urgency. I just, sitting up here and knowing the speed of government, I think it's going to take us longer than 6 months before we even figure out what is going on. And I would hate to not have the funding already in the budget, because it is like Groundhog Day. Every year we get a budget, there's overtime, and then halfway through, more overtime is needed. So I am not in favor of removing those from the budget at this time, because I just don't think we're going to have the time or have staff gather that information we need to be able to solve this problem right away.
Respectfully, we are out of order.
We are.
We have a motion and a second to reconsider. All those in favor of reconsideration, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
It is defeated. 2-2.
I was trying to explain.
Tie goes to the winner, loser. We had public comment today in closed session and a motion to reconsider. That is like
Procedurally, it's
back-to-back
been fun for you.
triples. Yeah, this is unbelievable. Okay, so that was 13 back to 12. Over to 14, adoption of a side letter agreement between the City of El Segundo and the El Segundo Police Officers Association, updating the holiday pay provision in the Memorandum of Understanding. Director Reddick, come on down.
A copy of a letter from CalPERS for 3 employees in the POA now. Those are compliance compensation reviews, meaning that 3 people potentially may be looking to retire, and CalPERS is reviewing or auditing their compensation. And in those letters, it stated to the employees that the holiday pay would be disallowed under the CalPERS regulations. And the reason for that is because the CalPERS regulations require that the actual names of the holidays, how many of the holidays are, and how many hours per holidays you would receive, are listed out in the MOU. Now, the language in our MOU has been the same for many, many years. So we believe, staff believes that CalPERS is using AI to review the MOUs, and so now this issue has come up. We experienced the same issue back in December with the Firefighters Association MOU. So the side letter clarifies the holidays. So there was, we're going back for the MOU prior to the current one that we're in now, which is a 4-year term, which had 120 hours for holiday pay, and also the current MOU, which increased that to 130 hours. We specifically list out all 12 holidays, and so retroactively it would be 10 hours per each of the 12 holidays and going to 10.83 hours for the current MOU, the 4-year term. So with this side letter, once this is approved by the governing board, we send it to CalPERS, and then those 3 people who are potentially looking to retire, their holiday pay compensation would be included in their pension calculation.
Questions for Director Reddick? All right. Would anyone like to move to adopt the side letter agreement between the City of El Segundo and the El Segundo Police Officers Association updating the holiday pay provision?
Boyle, so moved.
Pimentel on the second. All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
4-0. Thank you, Director Reddick. Item 15, the fiscal year 26 to 2030 strategic plan. Deputy City Manager Voss.
Good evening, Mayor Pimentel, members of council. This concludes the process of developing a 4-year strategic plan that we started as staff probably back in February. Most recently, we had a lengthy strategic planning session with City Council that was open to the public. That was held on April 14th. And from that, we have developed what we hope to be the final strategic plan based on the input from that session. The goals slightly changed from the last 4-year strategic plan, but major themes remain consistent. The goals are in no particular order: champion economic development and fiscal sustainability, develop and maintain high-quality infrastructure and technology, optimize community safety, emergency preparedness, and regulatory compliance, deliver exceptional customer service and clear communication, cultivate a high-performing and supportive workplace, and foster a connected and inclusive community for all who live, work, and visit El Segundo. So now we have 6 goals. Previously, we had 5. As far as strategies, as you know, for the public's benefit, we have 6 goals and then strategies under each goal. And then underneath those strategies, we internally, with our departments, develop action items to guide the implementation of each of the strategies and ultimately achieve the goals. So there was a little bit, since our strategic planning session, of sort of nothing material, but some kind of changes of wording and a little bit of fine-tuning that I noted here. Under the economic development and fiscal sustainability item, instead of identify opportunities for new revenues being a strategy, we moved that to an action item. It just made more sense to have that as an action that we would be taking in order to achieve the strategy of aligning financial decisions with the city's long-term financial plan and strategic goals. The last strategy, implement community planning, land use, and code enforcement policies that encourage growth while preserving El Segundo's quality of life. That's a mix of a couple of strategies, and one of the strategies that we're moving to an action item is the strategy was maintain an innovative general plan. So instead of that, we made it more specific, and this is the land use element update that's underway already. Develop an innovative and flexible general plan land use element that accommodates a robust economy and evolving development patterns. No changes to what was discussed at strategic planning here. CIP, transportation, mobility, sustainability, environmental, innovative technology to improve safety, services, efficiency, transparency, and then AI-driven solutions, transition from traditional software to AI solutions. Community safety, emergency preparedness, and regulatory compliance. The emergency preparedness and regulatory compliance were added to this item. No major changes here. We'll continue to do the patches program and address the unsheltered homeless population, which has been very successful. Fire protection services, cost-effective and excellent. Feeling of safety, which is as measured by our Zen City social media survey that we do. We're going to have reports twice a year on the sentiment that data is generating, that survey is generating. Air quality, adjacency, impacts, and emergency information to the public, so crisis communications. Exceptional customer service and clear communication. Continue our proactive community engagement program. We have Becky Robinson here, who's our communications manager, and also wanted to call out Becky because she, if you see in your packet, the beautifully designed strategic plan document, Becky designed that and put that together. And that will be available to the public and on our website. Implement interdepartmental crisis communication plan. We have a plan in place, but it needs to be adjusted and updated and maintain training and so that people know how to use it. Maintain a high level of customer satisfaction always. And then this is about internal teamwork, high-performing workplace. Morale is a very important thing. I think we've done made a lot of effort there with our employee engagement committee. Daryl has led some very successful and interactive town hall meetings with employees. I do believe that there is a more positive workplace culture here since Daryl's been here. Strengthen and modernize hiring strategies. HR is continuing to improve hiring strategies and really leaving no stone unturned in that aspect. And then ongoing training and development, which we have been doing. And then this final sixth goal, foster a connected and inclusive community for all who live, work, and visit El Segundo. We want to make sure that people feel represented, that they feel heard, that they are informed. We want to welcome people. The Hospitality and Tourism Initiative that is run out of Economic Development. We want to make sure that everybody feels welcome here. Everybody feels like they can come visit and feel comfortable and be part of our community and feel welcome. And then create opportunities for community engagement and celebration where people can come together as neighbors and people can come from other communities in the area and celebrate big events like the World Cup viewing party that we're having, and then also just feel connected to the community. And finally, council, through a ranking voting process, selected these 6 top priority strategies: economic development, attract, retain, and grow businesses; long-term financial sustainability; balanced budget; operational efficiency; community planning, land use; implement the capital improvement program projects; transition from the traditional software to the AI-based software; and then disaster preparedness was the 6th priority. The priority strategies will be reported out to City Council. As we've been doing monthly, we provide a report of here are the actions that have been taken over the last month towards implementation of the top priority strategies. And also we could, if there are any other strategies that council is interested in checking in on, we'll have that data available at any time through our project management software. Next step, as I mentioned, is that each of the departments will now, if this is approved, go with their teams, their internal teams, and determine what action items make sense for their staffing levels, for their resources to implement over the next 2 years. We're looking at the strategies for 2 years, and then we'll review it at a 2-year point and then do the next 2 years of strategies and action items. And again, I mentioned the report that will go to council and all city staff. It's a fluid document in terms of action items. Things come up, things drop off, just depending on conditions. And then we'll provide those monthly status reports to council. And so this evening, I'm requesting the adoption of the 2026-2030 strategic plan. Available for questions.
Council discussion.
I was a fan of the shortened strategic plan meeting that we had without the facilitator, where we just kind of got right to it. I think that was very effective, and the results are good. So thanks.
Good work, thank you. I know you put a lot of time in it, your staff, and we did as well. It looks great.
Councilmember Keldorf.
Ditto. My first real strategic planning session, so I thought that you and Daryl did a fantastic job really navigating that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, would anyone like to move to adopt the fiscal year 2026-30 strategic plan?
So moved.
Boyles on the first.
I'll second.
Keldorf on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Thank you.
Committees, commissions, and boards. Seeing none. Reports. Madam Clerk, Election Day. It's like your Super Bowl.
Oh, you're stealing my thunder. Today is California's primary election day, and the polls closed 1 minute ago. I would like to thank everybody who voted. It's really an important thing to do, take part in the process. And to everybody who staffed the polling locations throughout the state, it's sort of a thankless job. I would like a special shout out to El Segundo Public Library Manager Mark Herbert, who worked with our office and the county registrar recorder, county clerk, to set up everything that we needed to do to use the library as a polling place. It was open Saturday through today, and they will be there late tonight pulling out all that machinery and all the votes. The machinery goes tomorrow, I think. So anyway, that is it, and yeah, thanks to everybody for voting. Got to do it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilmember Keldorf.
Yeah, it's a great day to celebrate democracy. Thanks for everybody who came out and showed us what it looks like in person. We've had a lively conversation. I appreciate it. I appreciate my colleagues for, I think, representing what it also looks like to be an effective democratic city. On the housing note, I attended the second South Bay Regional Housing Trust Fund board meeting along with our community development director, Michael Allen. It was, we're like starting to do things. So I think I talked about last time, our annual allocation as a trust fund will be between 7 and 8 million in our share of Measure A funds. There was a 2025-2026 allocation that was there that the city of Hawthorne partnered with the developer and on a project that they've been working on for quite a long time, 90 affordable units that's ready to go. And the board made a $6 million allocation to them that they are hoping helps them get tax credits and gets that project out of the ground. So it felt like something real was being done. I think for our purposes, I know we've talked about it in future meetings. We'll definitely talk about how to allocate the percentages of funds going forward. And there is, I feel like, a collective desire to see some of that go to the monitoring and the compliance that we've talked about. So that would be a way that the city of El Segundo, without having a project to fund, at least in the near term, could potentially benefit from that. I think that's it from that meeting. And then thanks, Susan, for the shout out. June 13th is the World Cup watch party at Rec Park in the checkout grass area from 1 to 5, showing the 3 p.m. Brazil-Morocco game. So come on, and our amazing economic development team and communications team is working on some promo reels as well, just to highlight everything going on in the city of El Segundo with sport and community. And it will be fun. We'll have AYSO, we'll have a couple of local soccer clinics, little games and crafts and things for the family.
Thank you, Councilmember Keldorf. Councilmember Boyles.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I want to thank and congratulate CX2 for their grand opening of their beautiful new building on Nash, an inspiring company of how they've grown and what they're doing over there from innovation to manufacturing. Gundo Laundering had their grand reopening. They're on Mariposa and Center. That was a lot of fun. They had tacos from La Paz, coffee from the coffee bar, water from the water store. It was a party. It was great. I welcome them to the community. Thank you to the Rotarians for the Community Service Awards. I got to attend that and to celebrate all of the award winners. And also pleased to announce that the opening of the plunge this Saturday, all 250 tickets to be the person to go in the pool the first day have already been sold out. So that is going to be a very well-attended event when we open the plunge this weekend. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. How was the Australian soccer team arrival? Did you go to the Socceroos?
Oh, the Socceroos. Yes, yes. I did get to represent the city at that Kiwanis hangar off of Pershing, which is the largest hangar in all of North America. They had the team there that was doing a friendly against Mexico, answering Q&A, and the Australians are serious about their soccer. I'll just leave it at that.
There we go. Okay, that's several items, but first I have an item under my name, item 16, the possible ballot measure to address nonprofit businesses and the city's business license tax ordinance. I pulled this up just because when we did the BLT measure a few years ago, there was a few items that I think were probably needed to be cleaned up. One is we substituted charitable for we use the word nonprofit for charitable, which included some things that are not charitable organizations. We inadvertently exempted from the tax code. So what I'm looking for is council consensus to direct staff to include a proposed ordinance. I would ask one question of staff on the proposed ordinance. Were there other items in this thing requiring cleanup? I seem to recall questions about how we were counting different doors on multifamily, short-term, more multifamily rental.
I'll have to turn to the finance director on that one. I don't know the answer to that. On the change was made from charitable to nonprofit, which became broader, and that one I am aware of, but I don't know.
That was not included in regards to the door changes.
It's not included in my report, although we specifically directed it be looked at.
We'll take a look into that.
In that case, I will ask to continue item 16 until that part is looked at. Do we have consensus for that?
Yeah, you got consent for them to look at it, and then they'll bring back something for us to say.
That
yes,
right, that would include all of the potential cleanup on
Great.
Measure BLT
Great.
before my temple starts pulsing. Okay, a few other comments for our next meeting. So AB 1678 was signed into law today, which raises the limit on local sales tax. On our last thing, we anticipated this slightly by giving direction to start collecting on Measure C. If Measure ER passes, then we would want to consider resuspending collection on Measure C, because if ER passes and we collect on Measure C, then our sales tax becomes 11.5% locally. So I think that we will want to, so staff be on the lookout. If ER passes, we'll want to consider this immediately.
The council had already provided direction that we were to bring this back after the election and after that bill, the process. So it was already contemplated this be coming back to you either at the next meeting or the first meeting in July.
Got it. And City Manager, when your comments come up, please address the library study room issue that was addressed. If we need to discuss that further, you can take that with staff. That doesn't need to be a council issue. LA Sanitation has a special meeting tomorrow for, once again, to discuss the pay increase, the rate increase for LA Sanitation users. That would be 20%. Those rates have not gone up since 2019, so they are trailing inflation significantly and effectively have zero reserve right now. Thanks to Mattel yesterday, we got to do a quick sneak peek of the Masters of the Universe movie. So for people of a certain age and affinity of Skeletor, it was thrilling. The Estonian ambassador was in town. That was awesome. We had a great delegation. I did not know there were that many Estonians in the South Bay. There are apparently a lot. We had a great discussion, and they are certainly interested in bringing some of their tech companies over here to participate, as well as looking at ours. We had great Civic Day number 2. We got some presentations from the high school kids. So much to the point of one of our commenters before about bringing the schools in, whether they want to or not, to learn about local government. We brought them in, and they appropriately rolled their eyes like senioritis people should. We got to attend the Medal of Valor ceremony, which was amazing. We were well represented. I got stuck behind the torch run from the PD. That was super thrilling. I had someplace to be, not as quickly as I thought I would, but I was glad it wasn't me running. Public Works, awesome job solving that gas shutoff issue. We had an apartment building that had a safety gas issue. They were at wit's end with their landlord and the gas company. Public Works ran into the rescue. It wasn't our problem, but it was our solution. Nicely done, Public Works. Same on the planning department on solving the 123 Oak issue on electrification so they can participate in the sound insulation. I thought they'd be here to thank us. We have a tax policy meeting on Thursday morning that coincides with the Conference of Mayors being hosted in Long Beach. And so it'll be interesting. One of the things that we would like to know there is the continual discussion is on how California apportions sales tax on online sales. Who gets a share of the point of delivery? Who gets a share on the distribution center? And if you're the unlucky city that's just next to the distribution center, who pays to fix your roads when all those trucks tear them up? So that's 3 hours of yelling. Maybe we'll get a solution this time. And then can we make sure we invite El Segundo High School's women's swim and women's lacrosse to recognize them at the next meeting, please? And Climate Week people sent a lovely thank you. Our awesome climate tech stuff, Arbor and the like, get short shrift, a lot of defense stuff. That was awesome. And great work, Deputy City Manager, on working with Riverside and Imperial. We've had several companies that want to do stuff tech-wise here that may not be a great fit size and power-wise inside the city limits, connecting them with places that are desperate for business. Imperial County, depending on the seasonal labor, has a 41% unemployment rate. So helping them connect with some of our startups has been a big piece and a quiet piece of our economic development team. So very well done. And with that, I will shut my fat mouth and turn it over to the city attorney.
Nothing else this evening, thank you.
City Manager.
Yes, Mayor, real quick on Hyperion. AQMD did receive 13 complaints over the last 2 weeks with no nuisance violations related to that. However, they did issue an NOV because they did fail to report a breakdown of their oxygen reactor, which malfunctioned on May 20th. And I guess you got to report that within an hour, and they did not. So they did receive a violation.
Can I ask how we found out that they didn't report it within an hour?
AQMD folks told us that? Yes, AQMD informed us of that. And they're really good about letting us know. And then also, I'm in the process now of setting up a meeting with the new general manager, or the new acting general manager. I'll report back at the next meeting on that. Regarding the library, I did reach out during the public comment to our public works director, our rec and library director, who is sick today, but she did say staff is reviewing the current use of the study rooms at the library and how they can best be utilized. Staff is also reviewing how to handle folks that are conducting commercial activities in the library, such as private paid tutoring. And she's saying this type of activity is actually prohibited. So I'll follow up with her on that also. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, at 8:12, we are adjourned.